Hi, so I'm Randy Horton. We're here at the LSX conference at the Boston Convention Center. And what Orthogonal is trying to do with these videos is bring to you the best of the conference, because you can't make it to every conference. And if you can't possibly talk to every interesting person here. So we're talking today with Nishant Doctor from Surf Therapeutics.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Absolutely.
So tell us a little about yourself, and then tell us a little bit about Surf Therapeutics.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Randy, first of all, for inviting me and hosting me for this event or this podcast. My name is Nishant. I'm the CEO and founder of Surf Therapeutics. Surf is developing an ultrasound neuromodulation platform that interfaces with the body's autonomic nervous system, particularly the sympathetic nerve in the body, to regulate immune response. And basically what we're doing is we're calming inflammation in the body. And as you know, inflammation is the root cause for pretty much every chronic disorders that you're familiar with, from autoimmune to cardiovascular to neurological to metabolic. These are nothing but a chronic inflammatory disorder. So we're trying to calm inflammation in the body in a more natural way.
Wow, that's tremendous.
Yeah.
Can we try it now?
It's in development right now. We're in phase 2 trials, so it's still early.
And what's your background? How did you get into this?
Yeah, so my background is electrical engineering. I'm an electrical engineer by background. I've been in the medical device space for almost, I would say, 18 years at this point. Primarily in medical devices, I've been very focused on neurotech or neuromodulation.
Okay.
And my first company was vagus nerve stimulation that was using it for depression and epilepsy. But as you know, the whole vagus nerve stimulation has exploded quite a bit in the last few years. And so been in the medical device started off as an R&D engineer, did a little bit of clinical and also commercial and business to the latter half. And then in 2020, that's when I decided to make the leap into starting the company.
Very good. Yeah. Very good. Talk to us. You have a physical medical device. It's a therapeutic.
The hardware.
But it seems like there's some digital play here, either now or in the future. But could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, so I think digital component is very key to any hardware in the medical devices lately. And absolutely, we also have a digital play in our hardware component. Basically, on the digital side, what we're trying to do is, so our device is primarily therapeutics. So it is basically transmitting acoustic energy into the body and regulating the immune response and activating certain nerves and regulating the immune response. But the feedback component is what we're trying to collect is, how does the patient feel in the end? Are their symptoms getting down? Are they using the device? So this is an at-home device used daily. And the feature that is critical for our physicians is, how often does the patient use it? Are they compliant? Are they using it daily? Are they using it for the right time? How do they feel in the end? Is their symptoms getting better? That's what the physicians care about. That's what the stakeholders care about. So that's the digital component that we're trying to also build on top of our therapeutic, which is, of course, goes to the cloud and then goes to the physician. Sure. And initially, absolutely, we're going to develop our own platform or our own web-based software. But in the end, where physician cares, where this data needs to go, is an EHR. And so that component also needs to be considered into the development cycle.
Got it. So if you're building a house, how many places do you build out? Okay, we're going to build out a bathroom for this, as opposed to, you know what, I'm going to leave the piping behind the wall so I can add in a second bathroom here for this digital component. How do you balance all of that? And what do you invest now versus later?
Great question. The way I see this is, all right, so on the software side, right, what components are you going to build on the hardware that can have the capabilities that you can go down the road and upgrade over the air? Think about Tesla has done a fantastic job in that area, right? Like, they are making updates over the air and enabling features on the fly without having to get your car in and install a new hardware. So that is a very critical piece that you have to do. But again, you have to also, it's about prioritization. It's like, how far do you go? How far do you plan that early and then derail your timeline to commercialization? So it's a tricky one. There are components that we are thinking, what do we need in the next 5 years? What's the most critical thing that we're going to be building in the next 5 years? And that's the feature that we want to, from a hardware perspective, that's what we want to install into our device. In that 5 years, then it's like a rolling, moving 5 years, right? So a year from that or 2 years from that, we're already going to be working on second generation. At that point, we're like, okay, now what do we need to 5 years from that time? And what do we want to build in that second generation? So that's how we're thinking. Our mindset is just looking at 5 years out and what is the things that we want to enable.
So it's a rolling 5-year
Correct.
planning horizon.
That's correct.
All right, very good. I'd be curious if you can comment on some of the different stakeholders you deal with and how they look at digital. Like, what percentage of the VCs and people you pitch to for funding ask you a digital question? What's your digital play?
Lately, as you probably are very familiar with, everyone cares about AI. And what components of AI are you introducing into your system? And there are some VCs who won't even talk to you if you don't have AI because their thesis is all built around AI. And there are quite a few of those. That's what we've learned. So yeah, absolutely. When that comes around and if there is a specific VC that has a mandate that you need to have some AI, we do have that component, but it's not in the near future for us, not in the next 5 years as I was talking about, but in the 10 years, absolutely. We have a play there. And there's a lot of things that are improving in medical devices from, if you think about how AI is getting utilized, is more on identifying certain anomalies in the body through imaging. And so we don't want to find anomalies, but we're looking for a certain markers in the body on how we can identify those accurately and how do we deliver the therapy accurately to those areas. And then how do we capture feedback to make sure that the device is actually working. So those are things that we're considering and that's in our roadmap, but not in the next 5 years because that's not our critical piece. Our critical piece is making sure that a therapeutic component works.
So it almost sounds like in every component of what you're doing, there's this invisible layer of a spectrum of a data spectrum you can't see visibly, but it's there.
That's absolutely right.
And when you play into it.
That's absolutely, and we have to consider that because that's where the future is headed. We can be behind and we have to play. And again, we're actively having those, I wouldn't say we're working on it, but there are certain areas we familiarizing ourselves pretty well so that when the time is right, we're not left behind and we can integrate that quickly. Right. There was a very good saying by Jensen who said is from NVIDIA, when he was asked, like, how do you plan for the future and how do you keep up with the technology? And his feedback, that resonated very well with me is, we don't need to do everything as long as we're close to the tree. So when the apple falls, we're the first one to get it. Or we're the second one. We're not the last one to get it. So you keep yourself close to that tree that when the time is right, when it falls, you're there to grab it quickly.
So it sounds like you actually probably invest a slightly disproportionate amount of time in speculative reading to see what's out there that might be of use.
That's exactly right.
If you can't justify exactly what it is.
That's exactly right.
Very good. So actually, in that vein, tell us something you've read or learned that our listeners would be interested in. What's something really interesting you've come across? Or somebody interesting you've come across lately?
You mean a person or a company or science?
An idea or an article or debate?
I'll have to think about that. There's a lot of interesting stuff happening.
We can come back to it.
Yeah, I'm a little bit biased, but the area we're in is what I find extremely fascinating. And that's why we're working on it. So it is what drew me to starting Surf Therapeutics. It's the way of, it's like in the recent wave that's happening, the trends that are happening is a whole lot of monitoring. And I'm talking about medical device, not pharma. That's an area that I don't understand fully. I love the whole CRISPR technology, but it's still very behind. So there's a little bit of what I understand there because I've read the book for Jennifer Doudna that came out. But from a medical perspective or medical device perspective, the area that excites me the most is the trend that's happening now is all about monitoring, wearables. All of these devices are coming out with some minimally or non-invasive way of detecting certain biomarkers in your body, from like continuous glucose monitors to like certain inflammatory biomarkers to some protein levels however, these are all monitoring devices. They tell you may have a problem. Once you know you have a problem, what do? No one has a solution to that. I know I have a problem. All right, what do you tell me? You need to tell me now, what do I need to do? How do I manage that? And that kind of got excited me. We are working on that part. What do you do when you know you have a problem? How do you calm? Because all these biomarkers, all they're measuring is inflammation in your body in a way. And so what we're working on is calming that inflammation.
Right. This is the penicillin equivalent for inflammation.
Well, I wouldn't go that far, but we'll find out.
Broad-based.
Yeah, it's broad-based, exactly.
All right.
So we're excited. It's still in its early phase, but the science is extremely fascinating, and we're excited about it.
Very good. Let me ask you one last big picture question. Since you're in neuromodulation, you spent a lot of your career in neuromodulation. How far along do you think we are collectively in the neuromodulation journey? Are we just at the beginning? You think we're getting mature in terms of applications?
I certainly think we're getting mature in the application. There are thousands of companies now coming up with devices to modulate your nervous system. And when I started my career in this 15 years ago, it was still in its early phase. But that field has picked up, and it's picked up tremendously very recently, with a lot of the large tech guys coming into this field. Like, you may have seen certain companies like called Nudge. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they're doing ultrasound neuromodulation of the brain. It was started by this guy who started Coinbase. Yeah. And so he got into it. He founded Nudge for neurological disorders, so modulating the brain. Then Sam Altman made a recent announcement, Merge Labs, where OpenAI made a big bet into Merge Labs that was started by Sam Altman himself. And they're also doing some stuff in the brain. My speculation or rumors are that they're doing ultrasound neuromodulation as well for the brain. So there's a lot of excitement in this field. A lot of tech guys are coming in it. Mm-hmm. So brain is a fascinating organ that everyone wants to figure it out, and that's why it's getting a lot of attention. We're not in the central nervous system. We're on the more on the periphery side. So we're more targeted in a way, if you think about it that way. Yeah, it's exciting, it's growing, and it's a good time to be in it right now.
Great, thanks. And those are your recommendations of things to pay attention to.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for coming out and have a great conference.
Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.